Evening in the Sierra Nevada. Rolling slopes of brown, with olive trees instead of apple trees in the cultivated patches, and occasional prickly pears instead of gorse and bracken in the wilds. Higher up, tall stone peaks and precipices, all handsome and distinguished. No wild nature here, rather a most aristocratic mountain landscape made by a fastidious artist-creator. No vulgar profusion of vegetation, even a touch of aridity in the frequent patches of stones, Spanish magnificence and Spanish economy everywhere. Not very far north of a spot at which the high road over one of the passes crosses a tunnel on the railway from Malaga to Granada, is one of the mountain amphitheaters of the Sierra. Looking at it from the wide end of the horseshoe, one sees, a little to the right, in the face of the cliff, a romantic cave which is really an abandoned quarry, and towards the left a little hill, commanding a view of the road, which skirts the amphitheater on the left, maintaining its higher level on embankments and on an occasional stone arch. On the hill, watching the road, is a man who is either a Spaniard or a Scotchman. Probably a Spaniard, since he wears the dress of a Spanish goatherd and seems at home in the Sierra Nevada, but very like a Scotchman for all that. In the hollow, on the slope leading to the quarry cave, are about a dozen men who, as they recline at their cave round a heap of smouldering white ashes of dead leaf and brushwood, have an air of being conscious of themselves as picturesque scoundrels honoring the Sierra by using it as an effective pictorial background. As a matter of artistic fact, they are not picturesque, and the mountains tolerate them as lions tolerate lice. An English policeman or poor law guardian would recognize them as a selected band of tramps and able-bodied paupers. This description of them is not wholly contemptuous. Whoever has intelligently observed the tramp, or visited the able-bodied ward of a workhouse, will admit that our social failures are not all drunkards and weaklings. Some of them are men who do not fit the class they were born into. Precisely the same qualities that make the educated gentleman an artist may make an uneducated manual laborer an able-bodied pauper. There are men who fall helplessly into the workhouse because they are good for nothing, but there are also men who are there because they are strong-minded enough to disregard the social convention, obviously not a disinterested one on the part of the ratepayer, which bids a man lie by heavy and badly paid drudgery when he has the alternative of walking into the workhouse, announcing himself as a destitute person, and legally compelling the guardians to feed, clothe, and house him better than he could feed, clothe, and house himself without great exertion. When a man who was born a poet refuses a stool in a stockbroker's office, and starves in a garret, sponging on a poor landlady or on his friends and relatives rather than work against his grain, or when a lady, because she is a lady, will face any extremity of parasitic dependence rather than take a situation as cook or parlour-maid, we make large allowances for them. To such allowances the able-bodied pauper and his nomadic variant the tramp are equally entitled. Further, the imaginative man, if his life is to be tolerable to him, must have leisure to tell himself stories, and a position which lends itself to imaginative decoration. The ranks of unskilled labor offer no such positions. We misuse our laborers horribly, and when a man refuses to be misused, we have no right to say that he is refusing honest work. Let us be frank in this matter before we go on with our play, so that we may enjoy it without hypocrisy. If we were reasoning, far-sighted people, 4/5 of us would go straight to the guardians for relief, and knock the whole social system to pieces with most beneficial reconstructive results. The reason we do this is because we work like bees or ants, by instinct or habit, not reasoning about the matter at all. Therefore when a man comes along who can and does reason, and who, applying the Kantian test to his conduct, can truly say to us, if everybody did as I do, the world would be compelled to reform itself industrially, and abolish slavery and squalor, which exist only because everybody does as you do, let us honor that man and seriously consider the advisability of following his example. Such a man is the able-bodied, able-minded pauper. Were he a gentleman doing his best to get a pension or a sinecure instead of sweeping a crossing, nobody would blame him for deciding that so long as the alternative lies between living mainly at the expense of the community and allowing the community to live mainly at his, it would be folly to accept what is to him personally the greater of the two evils. We may therefore contemplate the tramps of the Sierra without prejudice, admitting cheerfully that our objects, briefly, to be gentlemen of fortune, are much the same as theirs, and the difference in our position and methods merely accidental. One or two of them, perhaps, it would be wiser to kill without malice in a friendly and frank manner, for there are bipeds, just as there are quadrupeds, who are too dangerous to be left unchained and unmuzzled, and these cannot fairly expect to have other men's lives wasted in the work of watching them. But as society has not the courage to kill them, and, when it catches them, simply wreaks on them some superstitious expiatory rites of torture and degradation, and then lets them loose with heightened qualifications for mischief, it is just as well that they are at large in the Sierra, and in the hands of a chief who looks as if he might possibly, on provocation, order them to be shot. This chief, seated in the center of the group on a squared block of stone from the quarry, is a tall strong man, with a striking cockatoo nose, glossy black hair, pointed beard, upturned mustache, and a Mephistophelian affectation which is fairly imposing, perhaps because the scenery admits of a larger swagger than Piccadilly, perhaps because of a certain sentimentality in the man which gives him that touch of grace which alone can excuse deliberate picturesqueness. His eyes and mouth are by no means rascally, he has a fine voice and a ready wit, and whether he is really the strongest man in the party, or not, he looks it. He is certainly the best fed, the best dressed, and the best trained. The fact that he speaks English is not unexpected in spite of the Spanish landscape, for with the exception of one man who might be guessed as a bullfighter ruined by drink and one unmistakable Frenchman, they are all Cockney or American. Therefore, in a land of cloaks and sombreros, they mostly wear seedy overcoats, woolen mufflers, hard hemispherical hats, and dirty brown gloves. Only a very few dress after their leader, whose broad sombrero with a cock's feather in the band, and voluminous cloak descending to his high boots, are as un-English as possible. None of them are armed, and the unloved ones keep their hands in their pockets because it is their national belief that it must be dangerously cold in the open air with the night coming on. It is as warm an evening as any reasonable man could desire. Except the bullfighting inebriate, there is only one person in the company who looks more than, say, 33. He is a small man with reddish whiskers, weak eyes, and the anxious look of a small tradesman in difficulties. He wears the only tall hat visible. It shines in the sunset with the sticky glow of some sixpenny patent hat reviver, often applied and constantly tending to produce a worse state of the original surface than the ruin it was applied to remedy. He has a collar and cuff of celluloid, and his brown Chesterfield overcoat, with velvet collar, is still presentable. He is preeminently the respectable man of the party, and is certainly over 40, possibly over 50. He is the corner man on the leader's right, opposite three men in scarlet ties on his left. One of these three is the Frenchman. Of the remaining two, who are both English, one is argumentative, solemn, and obstinate, the other rowdy and mischievous. The chief, with a magnificent fling of the end of his cloak across his left shoulder, rises to address them. The applause which greets him shows that he is a favorite orator. The chief. Friends and fellow brigands, I have a proposal to make to this meeting. We have now spent 3 evenings in discussing the question: have anarchists or social democrats the most personal courage? We have gone into the principles of anarchism and social democracy at great length. The cause of anarchy has been ably represented by our one anarchist, who doesn't know what anarchism means, laughter. The anarchist. Rising, a point of order, Mendoza. Mendoza. Forcibly, no, by thunder, your last point of order took half an hour. Besides, anarchists don't believe in order. The anarchist. Mild, polite but persistent, he is, in fact, the respectable-looking elderly man in the celluloid collar and cuffs. That is a vulgar error. I can prove. Mendoza. Order, order. The others, shouting, order, order. Sit down. Chair. Shut up. The anarchist is suppressed. Mendoza. On the other hand, we have 3 social democrats among us. They are not on speaking terms, and they have put before us three distinct and incompatible views of social democracy. The majority. Shouting assent, hear, hear. So we are. Right. The rowdy social democrat. Smarting under oppression, you ain't no Christian. You're a sheeny, you are. Mendoza. With crushing magnanimity, my friend, I am an exception to all rules. It is true that I have the honor to be a Jew, and, when the Zionists need a leader to reassemble our race on its historic soil of Palestine, Mendoza will not be the last to volunteer. Sympathetic applause, here, here, etc. But I am not a slave to any superstition. I have swallowed all the formulas, even that of socialism, though, in a sense, once a socialist, always a socialist. The Social Democrats. Here, here. Mendoza. But I am well aware that the ordinary man, even the ordinary brigand, who can scarcely be called an ordinary man, here, here, is not a philosopher. Common sense is good enough for him, and in our business affairs common sense is good enough for me. Well, what is our business here in the Sierra Nevada, chosen by the Moors as the fairest spot in Spain? Is it to discuss abstruse questions of political economy? No, it is to hold up motor cars and secure a more equitable distribution of wealth. The sulky social democrat. All made by labor, mind you. Mendoza. Urbanely, undoubtedly. All made by labor, and on its way to be squandered by wealthy vagabonds in the dens of vice that disfigure the sunny shores of the Mediterranean. We intercept that wealth. We restore it to circulation among the class that produced it and that chiefly needs it, the working class. We do this at the risk of our lives and liberties, by the exercise of the virtues of courage, endurance, foresight, and abstinence, especially abstinence. I myself have eaten nothing but prickly pears and broiled rabbit for 3 days. The sulky social democrat. Stubbornly, no more ain't we. Mendoza. Indignantly, have I taken more than my share? The sulky social democrat. Unmoved, why should you? The anarchist. Why should he not? To each according to his needs, from each according to his means. The Frenchman. Shaking his fist at the anarchist, fumiste. Mendoza. Diplomatically, I agree with both of you. The genuinely English brigands. Here, here. Bravo, Mendoza. Mendoza. What I say is, let us treat one another as gentlemen, and strive to excel in personal courage only when we take the field. The rowdy social democrat. Derisively, Shakespeare. A whistle comes from the goatherd on the hill. He springs up and points excitedly forward along the road to the north. The goatherd. Automobile. Automobile. He rushes down the hill and joins the rest, who all scramble to their feet. Mendoza. In ringing tones, to arms. Who has the gun? The sulky social democrat. Handing a rifle to Mendoza, here. Mendoza. Have the nails been strewn in the road? The rowdy social democrat. 2 ounces of M. Mendoza. Good. To the Frenchman, with me, Duval. If the nails fail, puncture their tires with a bullet. He gives the rifle to Duval, who follows him up the hill. Mendoza produces an opera glass. The others hurry across to the road and disappear to the north. Mendoza. On the hill, using his glass, 2 only, a capitalist and his chauffeur. They look English. Duval. English. Oh yes. Cochons. Handling the rifle, faux tire, and esciepa. Mendoza. No, the nails have gone home. Their tire is down, they stop. Duval. Shouting to the others, Fondes sérieux, nom de Dieu. Mendoza. Rebuking his excitement, du calme, Duval, keep your hair on. They take it quietly. Let us descend and receive them. Mendoza descends, passing behind the fire and coming forward, whilst Tanner and Straker, in their motoring goggles, leather coats, and caps, are led in from the road by brigands. Tanner. Is this the gentleman you describe as your boss? Does he speak English? The rowdy Social Democrat. Course he does. I don't suppose we Englishmen lets ourselves be bossed by a bloomin' Spaniard, do you? Mendoza. With dignity, allow me to introduce myself, Mendoza, President of the League of the Sierra. Posing loftily, I am a brigand, I live by robbing the rich. Tanner. Promptly, I am a gentleman, I live by robbing the poor. Shake hands. The English Social Democrats. Hear, hear. General laughter and good humor. Tanner and Mendoza shake hands. The brigands drop into their former places. Straker. Air. Where do I come in? Tanner. Introducing, my friend and chauffeur. The sulky Social Democrat. Suspiciously, well, which is he? Friend or chauffeur? It makes all the difference, you know. Mendoza. Explaining, we should expect ransom for a friend. A professional chauffeur is free of the mountains. He even takes a trifling percentage of his principal's ransom if he will honor us by accepting it. Straker. I see. Just to encourage me to come this way again. Well, I'll think about it. Duval. Impulsively rushing across to Straker, mon frère. He embraces him rapturously and kisses him on both cheeks. Straker. Disgusted, air, get out, don't be silly. Who are you, pray? Duval. Duval, Social Democrat. Straker. Oh, you're a Social Democrat, are you? The anarchist. He means that he is sold out to the parliamentary humbugs and the bourgeoisie. Compromise. That is his faith. Duval. Furiously, I understand what he say. He say bourgeois. He say compromise. Jamais de la vie. Miserable menta. Straker. See here, Captain Mendoza, how much o' this sort o' thing do you put up with here? Are we even a pleasure trip in the mountains, or are we at a socialist meetin'? The majority. Here, here. Shut up. Chuck it. Sit down, etc., etc. The Social Democrats and the anarchist are hurtled into the background. Straker, after superintending this proceeding with satisfaction, places himself on Mendoza's left, Tanner being on his right. Mendoza. Can we offer you anything? Broiled rabbit and prickly pears. Tanner. Thank you, we have dined. Mendoza. To his followers, gentlemen, business is over for the day. Go as you please until morning. The brigands disperse into groups lazily. Some go into the cave. Others sit down or lie down to sleep in the open. A few produce a pack of cards and move off towards the road, for it is now starlight, and they know that motor cars have lamps which can be turned to account for lighting a card party. Straker. Calling after them, "Don't none of you go fooling with that car, d'ye hear?" Mendoza. No fear, Monsieur le Chauffeur. The first one we captured cured us of that. Straker. Interested, what did it do? Mendoza. It carried 3 brave comrades of ours, who did not know how to stop it, into Granada, and capsized them opposite the police station. Since then we never touch one without sending for the chauffeur. Shall we chat at our ease? Tanner. By all means. Tanner, Mendoza, and Straker sit down on the turf by the fire. Mendoza delicately waives his presidential dignity, of which the right to sit on the squared stone block is the uppunnage, by sitting on the ground like his guests, and using the stone only as a support for his back. Mendoza. It is the custom in Spain always to put off business until tomorrow. In fact, you have arrived out of office hours. However, if you would prefer to settle the question of ransom at once, I am at your service. Tanner. Tomorrow will do for me. I am rich enough to pay anything in reason. Mendoza. Respectfully, much struck by this admission, you are a remarkable man, sir. Our guests usually describe themselves as miserably poor. Tanner. Pooh. Miserably poor people don't own motor cars. Mendoza. Precisely what we say to them. Tanner. Treat us well, we shall not prove ungrateful. Straker. No prickly pears and broiled rabbits, you know. Don't tell me you can't do us a bit better than that if you like. Mendoza. Wine, kids, milk, cheese, and bread can be procured for ready money. Straker. Graciously, now you're talking. Tanner. Are you all socialists here, may I ask? Mendoza. Repudiating this humiliating misconception, oh no, nothing of the kind, I assure you. We naturally have modern views as to the justice of the existing distribution of wealth, otherwise we should lose our self-respect. But nothing that you could take exception to, except 2 or 3 faddists. Tanner. I had no intention of suggesting anything discreditable. In fact, I am a bit of a socialist myself. Straker. Drilly, most rich men are, I notice. Mendoza. Quite so. It has reached us, I admit. It is in the air of the century. Straker. Socialism must be looking up a bit if your chaps are taking to it. Mendoza. That is true, sir. A movement which is confined to philosophers and honest men can never exercise any real political influence. There are too few of them. Until a movement shows itself capable of spreading among brigands, it can never hope for a political majority. Tanner. But are your brigands any less honest than ordinary citizens? Mendoza. Sir, I will be frank with you. Brigandage is abnormal. Abnormal professions attract 2 classes, those who are not good enough for ordinary bourgeois life and those who are too good for it. We are dregs and scum, sir, the dregs very filthy, the scum very superior. Straker. Take care. Some o' the dregs'll hear you. Mendoza. It does not matter, each brigand thinks himself scum, and likes to hear the others called dregs.
Tanner. Come. You are a wit. Mendoza inclines his head, flattered. May one ask you a blunt question? Mendoza. As blunt as you please. Tanner. How does it pay a man of your talent to shepherd such a flock as this on broiled rabbit and prickly pears? I have seen men less gifted, and I'll swear less honest, supping at the Savoy on foie gras and champagne. Mendoza. Pooh. They have all had their turn at the broiled rabbit, just as I shall have my turn at the Savoy. Indeed, I have had a turn there already, as waiter. Tanner. A waiter. You astonish me. Mendoza. Reflectively, yes, I, Mendoza of the Sierra, was a waiter. Hence, perhaps, my cosmopolitanism. With sudden intensity, shall I tell you the story of my life? Straker. Apprehensively, if it ain't too long, old chap. Tanner. Interrupting him, tshsh, you are a Philistine, Henry, you have no romance in you. To Mendoza, you interest me extremely, President. Never mind Henry, he can go to sleep. Mendoza. The woman I loved. Straker. Oh, this is a love story, is it? Right you are. Go on, I was only afraid you were going to talk about yourself. Mendoza. Myself. I have thrown myself away for her sake, that is why I am here. No matter, I count the world well lost for her. She had, I pledge you my word, the most magnificent head of hair I ever saw. She had humor, she had intellect, she could cook to perfection, and her highly strung temperament made her uncertain, incalculable, variable, capricious, cruel, in a word, enchanting. Straker. A 6-shillin' novel sort o' woman, all but the cookin'. 'Er name was Lady Gladys Plantagenet, wasn't it? Mendoza. No, sir, she was not an earl's daughter. Photography, reproduced by the halftone process, has made me familiar with the appearance of the daughters of the English peerage, and I can honestly say that I would have sold the lot, faces, dowries, clothes, titles, and all, for a smile from this woman. Yet she was a woman of the people, a worker, otherwise, let me reciprocate your bluntness, I should have scorned her. Tanner. Very properly. And did she respond to your love? Mendoza. Should I be here if she did? She objected to marry a Jew. Tanner. On religious grounds? Mendoza. No, she was a free thinker. She said that every Jew considers in his heart that English people are dirty in their habits. Tanner. Surprised, dirty. Mendoza. It showed her extraordinary knowledge of the world, for it is undoubtedly true. Our elaborate sanitary code makes us unduly contemptuous of the Gentile. Tanner. Did you ever hear that, Henry? Straker. I've heard my sister say so. She was cook in a Jewish family once. Mendoza. I could not deny it, neither could I eradicate the impression it made on her mind. I could have got round any other objection, but no woman can stand a suspicion of indelicacy as to her person. My entreaties were in vain, she always retorted that she wasn't good enough for me, and recommended me to marry an accursed barmaid named Rebecca Lazarus, whom I loathed. I talked of suicide, she offered me a packet of beetle poison to do it with. I hinted at murder, she went into hysterics, and as I am a living man I went to America so that she might sleep without dreaming that I was stealing upstairs to cut her throat. In America, I went out west and fell in with a man who was wanted by the police for holding up trains. It was he who had the idea of holding up motors cars in the south of Europe, a welcome idea to a desperate and disappointed man. He gave me some valuable introductions to capitalists of the right sort. I formed a syndicate, and the present enterprise is the result. I became leader, as the Jew always becomes leader, by his brains and imagination. But with all my pride of race, I would give everything I possess to be an Englishman. I am like a boy. I cut her name on the trees and her initials on the sod. When I am alone, I lie down and tear my wretched hair and cry, Louisa. Straker. Startled, Louisa. Mendoza. It is her name, Louisa Straker. Tanner. Straker. Straker. Scrambling up on his knees most indignantly, look here, Louisa Straker is my sister, see? What do you mean by gassing about her like this? What's she got to do with you? Mendoza. A dramatic coincidence. You are Henry, her favorite brother. Straker. Ooh, are you Callan Henry? What call have you to take a liberty with my name or with hers? For 2 pins I'd punch your fat head, so I would. Mendoza. With grandiose calm, if I let you do it, will you promise to brag of it afterwards to her? She will be reminded of her Mendoza, that is all I desire. Tanner. This is genuine devotion, Henry. You should respect it. Straker. Fiercely, funk, more likely. Mendoza. Springing to his feet, funk. Young man, I come of a famous family of fighters, and as your sister well knows, you would have as much chance against me as a perambulator against your motor car. Straker. Secretly daunted, but rising from his knees with an air of reckless pugnacity, I ain't afraid of you. With your Louisa. Louisa. Miss Straker is good enough for you, I should think. Mendoza. I wish you could persuade her to think so. Straker. Exasperated, here. Tanner. Rising quickly and interposing, oh come, Henry, even if you could fight the president, you can't fight the whole League of the Sierra. Sit down again and be friendly. A cat may look at a king, and even a president of brigands may look at your sister. All this family pride is really very old-fashioned. Straker. Subdued, but grumbling, let him look at her. But what does he mean by making out that she ever looked at him? Reluctantly resuming his couch on the turf, hear him talk, one UD thinks she was keepin' company with him. He turns his back on them and composes himself to sleep. Mendoza. To Tanner, becoming more confidential as he finds himself virtually alone with a sympathetic listener in the still starlight of the mountains, for all the rest are asleep by this time, it was just so with her, sir. Her intellect reached forward into the 20th century, her social prejudices and family affections reached back into the Dark Ages. Ah, sir, how the words of Shakespeare seem to fit every crisis in our emotions. I loved Louisa, 40,000 brothers could not with all their quantity of love make up my sum. And so on. I forget the rest. Call it madness if you will, infatuation. I am an able man, a strong man, in 10 years I should have owned a first-class hotel. I met her, and you see. I am a brigand, an outcast. Even Shakespeare cannot do justice to what I feel for Louisa. Let me read you some lines that I have written about her myself. However slight their literary merit may be, they express what I feel better than any casual words can. He produces a packet of hotel bills scrawled with manuscript, and kneels at the fire to decipher them, poking it with a stick to make it glow. Tanner. Clapping him rudely on the shoulder, put them in the fire, President. Mendoza. Startled, eh? Tanner. You are sacrificing your career to a monomania. Mendoza. I know it. Tanner. No, you don't. No man would commit such a crime against himself if he really knew what he was doing. How can you look round at these august hills, look up at this divine sky, taste this finely tempered air, and then talk like a literary hack on a second floor in Bloomsbury? Mendoza. Shaking his head, the Sierra is no better than Bloomsbury when once the novelty has worn off. Besides, these mountains make you dream of women with magnificent hair. Tanner. Of Louisa, in short. They will not make me dream of women, my friend, I am heart-whole. Mendoza. Do not boast until morning, sir. This is a strange country for dreams. Tanner. Well, we shall see. Good night. He lies down and composes himself to sleep. Mendoza, with a sigh, follows his example, and for a few moments there is peace in the Sierra. Then Mendoza sits up suddenly and says pleadingly to Tanner. Mendoza. Just allow me to read a few lines before you go to sleep. I should really like your opinion of them. Tanner. Drowsily, go on. I am listening. Mendoza. I saw thee first in Whitsun week, Louisa, Louisa. Tanner. Roaring himself, my dear President, Louisa is a very pretty name, but it really doesn't rhyme well to Whitsun week. Mendoza. Of course not. Louisa is not the rhyme, but the refrain. Tanner. Subsiding, the refrain. I beg your pardon. Go on. Mendoza. Perhaps you do not care for that one, I think you will like this better. He recites, in rich soft tones, and a slow time. Louisa, I love thee. I love thee, Louisa. Louisa, 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 I love thee. One name and one phrase make my music, Louisa. Louisa, 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 I love thee. Mendoza thy lover, Mendoza, Mendoza adoringly lives for Louisa. There's nothing but that in the world for Mendoza. Louisa, Louisa, Mendoza adores thee. Affected, there is no merit in producing beautiful lines upon such a name. Louisa is an exquisite name, is it not? Tanner. All but asleep, responds with a faint groan. Mendoza. O wert thou, Louisa, the wife of Mendoza, Mendoza's Louisa, Louisa Mendoza, how blessed were the life of Louisa's Mendoza! How painless his longing of love for Louisa! That is real poetry, from the heart of hearts. Don't you think it will move her? No answer. Resignedly, asleep, as usual. Doggerel to all the world, heavenly music to me. Idiot that I am to wear my heart on my sleeve. He composes himself to sleep, murmuring, Louisa, I love thee, Louisa, 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 I. Straker snores, rolls over on his side, and relapses into sleep. Stillness settles on the Sierra, and the darkness deepens. The fire has again buried itself in white ash and ceased to glow. The peaks show unfathomably dark against the starry firmament, but now the stars dim and vanish, and the sky seems to steal away out of the universe. Instead of the Sierra there is nothing, omnipresent nothing. No sky, no peaks, no light, no sound,
no time nor space, utter void. Then somewhere the beginning of a pallor, and with it a faint throbbing buzz as of a ghostly violoncello palpitating on the same note endlessly. A couple of ghostly violins presently take advantage of this space. A staff of music is supplied here. And therewith the pallor reveals a man in the void, an incorporeal but visible man, seated, absurdly enough, on nothing. For a moment he raises his head as the music passes him by. Then, with a heavy sigh, he droops in utter dejection, and the violins, discouraged, retrace their melody in despair and at last give it up, extinguished by wailings from uncanny wind instruments, thus. More music. It is all very odd. One recognizes the Mozartian strain, and on this hint, and by the aid of certain sparkles of violet light in the pallor, the man's costume explains itself as that of a Spanish nobleman of the 15th to 16th century. Don Juan, of course, but where? Why? How? Besides, in the brief lifting of his face, now hidden by his hat brim, there was a curious suggestion of Tanner. A more critical, fastidious, handsome face, paler and colder, without Tanner's impetuous credulity and enthusiasm, and without a touch of his modern plutocratic vulgarity, but still a resemblance, even in identity. The name too, Don Juan Tenorio, John Tanner. Where on earth, or elsewhere, have we got to from the XX century and the Sierra? Another pallor in the void, this time not violet, but a disagreeable smoky yellow. With it, the whisper of a ghostly clarionet turning this tune into infinite sadness. Here there is another musical staff. The yellowish pallor moves, there is an old crone wandering in the void, bent and toothless, draped, as well as one can guess, in the coarse brown frock of some religious order. She wanders and wanders in her slow hopeless way, much as a wasp flies in its rapid busy way, until she blunders against the thing she seeks, companionship. With a sob of relief the poor old creature clutches at the presence of the man and addresses him in her dry unlovely voice, which can still express pride and resolution as well as suffering. The old woman. Excuse me, but I am so lonely, and this place is so awful. Don Juan. A newcomer? The old woman. Yes, I suppose I died this morning. I confessed, I had extreme unction, I was in bed with my family about me and my eyes fixed on the cross. Then it grew dark, and when the light came back it was this light by which I walk seeing nothing. I have wandered for hours in horrible loneliness. Don Juan. Sighing, ah! You have not yet lost the sense of time. One soon does, in eternity. The old woman. Where are we? Don Juan. In hell. The old woman, proudly, hell. I in hell. How dare you? Don Juan. Unimpressed, why not, Sonora? The old woman. You do not know to whom you are speaking. I am a lady, and a faithful daughter of the church. Don Juan. I do not doubt it. The old woman. But how then can I be in hell? Purgatory, perhaps, I have not been perfect, who has? But hell. Oh, you are lying. Don Juan. Hell, Sonora, I assure you, hell at its best, that is, its most solitary, though perhaps you would prefer company. The old woman. But I have sincerely repented, I have confessed. Don Juan. How much? The old woman. More sins than I really committed. I loved confession. Don Juan. Ah, that is perhaps as bad as confessing too little. At all events, Sonora, whether by oversight or intention, you are certainly damned, like myself, and there is nothing for it now but to make the best of it.
The old woman, indignantly, oh! And I might have been so much wickeder. All my good deeds wasted. It is unjust. Don Juan.
No, you were fully and clearly warned.
For your bad deeds, vicarious atonement, mercy without justice. For your good deeds, justice without mercy. We have many good people here. The old woman. Were you a good man? Don Juan. I was a murderer. The old woman. A murderer.
Oh, how dare they send me to herd with murderers? I was not as bad as that, I was a good woman.
There is some mistake, where can I have it set right? Don Juan.
I do not know whether mistakes can be corrected here.
Probably they will not admit a mistake even if they have made one. The old woman. But whom can I ask? Don Juan.
I should ask the devil, Sonora, he understands the ways of this place, which is more than I ever could.
The old woman. The devil.
I speak to the devil.
Don Juan.
In hell, Sonora, the devil is the leader of the best society.
The old woman.
I tell you, wretch, I know I am not in hell.
Don Juan. How do you know? The old woman. Because I feel no pain. Don Juan.
Oh, then there is no mistake, you are intentionally damned.
The old woman.
Why do you say that?
Don Juan.
Because hell, Sonora, is a place for the wicked. The wicked are quite comfortable in it, it was made for them. You tell me you feel no pain. I conclude you are one of those for whom hell exists. The old woman. Do you feel no pain? Don Juan. I am not one of the wicked, Sonora, therefore it bores me beyond description, beyond belief.
The old woman. Not one of the wicked. You said you were a murderer. Don Juan. Only a duel.
I ran my sword through an old man who was trying to run his through me.
The old woman. If you were a gentleman, that was not a murder. Don Juan.
The old man called it murder, because he was, he said, defending his daughter's honor. By this he meant that because I foolishly fell in love with her and told her so, she screamed, and he tried to assassinate me after calling me insulting names.
The old woman. You were like all men. Libertines and murderers all. Don Juan. And yet we meet here, dear lady. The old woman. Listen to me.
My father was slain by just such a wretch as you, in just such a duel, for just such a cause.
I screamed, it was my duty. My father drew on my assailant, his honor demanded it. He fell, that was the reward of honor. I am here, in hell, you tell me that is the reward of duty. Is there justice in heaven? Don Juan. No, but there is justice in hell. Heaven is far above such idle human personalities. You will be welcome in hell, Sonora.
Hell is the home of honor, duty, justice, and the rest of the 7 deadly virtues. All the wickedness on earth is done in their name, where else but in hell should they have their reward?
Have I not told you that the truly damned are those who are happy in hell? The old woman. And are you happy here? Don Juan. Springing to his feet, no, and that is the enigma on which I ponder in darkness. Why am I here? I, who repudiated all duty, trampled honor underfoot, and laughed at justice. The old woman. Oh, what do I care why you are here? Why am I here? I, who sacrificed all my inclinations to womanly virtue and propriety. Don Juan. Patience, lady, you will be perfectly happy and at home here. As saith the poet, hell is a city much like Seville. The old woman. Happy. Here. Where I am nothing. Where I am nobody. Don Juan. Not at all, you are a lady, and wherever ladies are is hell. Do not be surprised or terrified, you will find everything here that a lady can desire, including devils who will serve you from sheer love of servitude, and magnify your importance for the sake of dignifying their service, the best of servants. The old woman. My servants will be devils. Don Juan. Have you ever had servants who were not devils? The old woman. Never, they were devils, perfect devils, all of them. But that is only a manner of speaking. I thought you meant that my servants here would be real devils. Don Juan. No more real devils than you will be a real lady. Nothing is real here. That is the horror of damnation. The old woman. Oh, this is all madness. This is worse than fire and the worm. Don Juan. For you, perhaps, there are consolations. For instance, how old were you when you changed from time to eternity? The old woman. Do not ask me how old I was as if I were a thing of the past. I am 77. Don Juan. A ripe age, Sonora. But in hell old age is not tolerated. It is too real. Here we worship love and beauty. Our souls being entirely damned, we cultivate our hearts. As a lady of 77, you would not have a single acquaintance in hell. The old woman. How can I help my age, man? Don Juan. You forget that you have left your age behind you in the realm of time. You are no more 77 than you are 7 or 17 or 27. The old woman. Nonsense. Don Juan. Consider, Sonora, was not this true even when you lived on earth? When you were 70, were you really older underneath your wrinkles and your gray hairs than when you were 30? The old woman. No, younger, at 30 I was a fool. But of what use is it to feel younger and look older? Don Juan. You see, Sonora, the look was only an illusion. Your wrinkles lied, just as the plump smooth skin of many a stupid girl of 17, with heavy spirits and decrepit ideas, lies about her age? Well, here we have no bodies, we see each other as bodies only because we learned to think about one another under that aspect when we were alive, and we still think in that way, knowing no other. But we can appear to one another at what age we choose. You have but to will any of your old looks back, and back they will come. The old woman. It cannot be true. Don Juan. Try. The old woman. 17. Don Juan. Stop. Before you decide, I had better tell you that these things are a matter of fashion. Occasionally we have a rage for 17, but it does not last long. Just at present the fashionable age is 40, or say 37, but there are signs of a change. If you were at all good-looking at 27, I should suggest your trying that, and setting a new fashion. The old woman. I do not believe a word you are saying.
However, 27 be it.
Whisk.
The old woman becomes a young one, and so handsome that in the radiance into which her dull yellow halo has suddenly lightened one might almost mistake her for in Whitefield.
Don Juan. Dona Ana de Aloa. Ana. What? You know me. Don Juan. And you forget me. Ana. I cannot see your face. He raises his hat. Don Juan Tenorio. Monster. You who slew my father. Even here you pursue me. Don Juan. I protest I do not pursue you. Allow me to withdraw, going. Ana.
Seizing his arm, you shall not leave me alone in this dreadful place.
Don Juan. Provided my staying be not interpreted as pursuit. Ana.
Releasing him, you may well wonder how I can endure your presence.
My dear, dear father. Don Juan. Would you like to see him? Ana. My father here. Don Juan. No, he is in heaven. Ana. I knew it. My noble father. He is looking down on us now.
What must he feel to see his daughter in this place, and in conversation with his murderer?
Don Juan. By the way, if we should meet him. Ana. How can we meet him? He is in heaven. Don Juan. He condescends to look in upon us here from time to time. Heaven bores him.
So let me warn you that if you meet him he will be mortally offended if you speak of me as his murderer. He maintains that he was a much better swordsman than I, and that if his foot had not slipped he would have killed me. No doubt he is right, I was not a good fencer. I never dispute the point, so we are excellent friends.
Ana.
It is no dishonor to a soldier to be proud of his skill in arms.
Don Juan. You would rather not meet him, probably. Ana. How dare you say that? Don Juan. Oh, that is the usual feeling here.
You may remember that on earth, though of course we never confessed it, the death of anyone we knew, even those we liked best, was always mingled with a certain satisfaction at being finally done with them.
Ana. Monster. Never, never. Don Juan. Placidly, I see you recognize the feeling.
Yes, a funeral was always a festivity in black, especially the funeral of a relative. At all events, family ties are rarely kept up here. Your father is quite accustomed to this, he will not expect any devotion from you.
Ana. Wretch, I wore mourning for him all my life. Don Juan. Yes, it became you. But a life of mourning is one thing, an eternity of it quite another. Besides, here you are as dead as he. Can anything be more ridiculous than one dead person mourning for another?
Do not look shocked, my dear Anna, and do not be alarmed, there is plenty of humbug in hell, indeed there is hardly anything else, but the humbug of death and age and change is dropped because here we are all dead and all eternal. You will pick up our ways soon.
Ana. And will all the men call me their dear Ana? Don Juan. No. That was a slip of the tongue. I beg your pardon. Ana. Almost tenderly, Juan, did you really love me when you behaved so disgracefully to me? Don Juan.
Impatiently, oh, I beg you not to begin talking about love. Here they talk of nothing else but love, its beauty, its holiness, its spirituality, its devil knows what, excuse me, but it does so bore me.
They don't know what they're talking about. I do.
They think they have achieved the perfection of love because they have no bodies.
Sheer imaginative debauchery. Faugh. Anna. Has even death failed to refine your soul, one? Has the terrible judgment of which my father's statue was the minister taught you no reverence? Don Juan. How is that very flattering statue, by the way? Does it still come to supper with naughty people and cast them into this bottomless pit? Anna. It has been a great expense to me.
The boys in the monastery school would not let it alone, the mischievous ones broke it, and the studious ones wrote their names on it.
3 new noses in 2 years, and fingers without end.
I had to leave it to its fate at last, and now I fear it is shockingly mutilated.
My poor father. Don Juan. Hush. Listen.
2 great chords rolling on syncopated waves of sound break forth, D minor and its dominant, a round of dreadful joy to all musicians.
Ha! Mozart's statue music. It is your father.
You had better disappear until I prepare him.
She vanishes.
From the void comes a living statue of white marble, designed to represent a majestic old man. But he waves his majesty with infinite grace, walks with a feather-like step, and makes every wrinkle in his war-worn visage brim over with holiday joyousness. To his sculptor he owes a perfectly trained figure, which he carries erect and trim, and the ends of his mustache curl up, elastic as watch springs, giving him an air which, but for its Spanish dignity, would be called jaunty. He is on the pleasantest terms with Don Juan. His voice, save for a much more distinguished intonation, is so like the voice of Roebuck Ramsden that it calls attention to the fact that they are not unlike one another in spite of their very different fashion of shaving.
Don Juan. Ah, here you are, my friend. Why don't you learn to sing the splendid music Mozart has written for you? The statue. Unluckily he has written it for a bass voice. Mine is a countertenor. Well, have you repented yet? Don Juan. I have too much consideration for you to repent, Don Gonzalo.
If I did, you would have no excuse for coming from heaven to argue with me.
The statue. True. Remain obdurate, my boy.
I wish I had killed you, as I should have done but for an accident.
Then I should have come here, and you would have had a statue and a reputation for piety to live up to. Any news? Don Juan. Yes, your daughter is dead. The statue. Puzzled, my daughter? Recollecting, oh. The one you were taken with. Let me see, what was her name? Don Juan. Anna. The statue. To be sure, Anna. A good-looking girl, if I recollect aright. Have you warned what's name, her husband? Don Juan. My friend Ottavio?
No, I have not seen him since Anna arrived.
Anna comes indignantly to light. Anna. What does this mean? Ottavio here and your friend. And you, father, have forgotten my name. You are indeed turned to stone. The statue. My dear, I am so much more admired in marble than I ever was in my own person that I have retained the shape the sculptor gave me. He was one of the first men of his day, you must acknowledge that. Anna. Father. Vanity. Personal vanity. From you. The statue. Ah, you outlived that weakness, my daughter, you must be nearly 80 by this time.
I was cut off, by an accident, in my 64th year, and am considerably your junior in consequence. Besides, my child, in this place, what our libertine friend here would call the farce of parental wisdom is dropped. Regard me, I beg, as a fellow creature, not as a father.
Anna. You speak as this villain speaks.
The statue. Juan is a sound thinker, Anna. A bad fencer, but a sound thinker.
Anna.
Horror creeping upon her, I begin to understand.
These are devils, mocking me. I had better pray.
The statue. Consoling her, no, 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 my child, do not pray. If you do, you will throw away the main advantage of this place. Written over the gate here are the words, "Leave every hope behind, ye who enter."
Only think what a relief that is.
For what is hope?
A form of moral responsibility.
Here there is no hope, and consequently no duty, no work, nothing to be gained by praying, nothing to be lost by doing what you like. Hell, in short, is a place where you have nothing to do but amuse yourself.
Don Juan sighs deeply.
You sigh, friend Juan, but if you dwelt in heaven, as I do, you would realize your advantages.
Don Juan. You are in good spirits today, Commander. You are positively brilliant. What is the matter?
The statue.
I have come to a momentous decision, my boy.
But first, where is our friend the devil?
I must consult him in the matter. And Anna would like to make his acquaintance, no doubt. Anna. You are preparing some torment for me. Don Juan. All that is superstition, Anna. Reassure yourself. Remember, the devil is not so black as he is painted.
The statue.
Let us give him a call.
At the wave of the statue's hand the great chords roll out again, but this time Mozart's music gets grotesquely adulterated with Gounod's.
A scarlet halo begins to glow, and into it the devil rises, very Mephistophelian, and not at all unlike Mendoza, though not so interesting.
He looks older, is getting prematurely bald, and, in spite of an effusion of good nature and friendliness, is peevish and sensitive when his advances are not reciprocated.
He does not inspire much confidence in his powers of hard work or endurance, and is, on the whole, a disagreeably self-indulgent looking person, but he is clever and plausible, though perceptibly less well-bred than the two other men, and enormously less vital than the woman. The devil. Heartily, have I the pleasure of again receiving a visit from the illustrious commander of Calatrava?
Coldly, Don Juan, your servant.
Politely, and the strange lady? My respects, Sonora. Anna. Are you?
The devil. Bowing, Lucifer, at your service.
Anna. I shall go mad.
The devil.
Gallantly, Sonora, do not be anxious.
You come to us from earth, full of the prejudices and terrors of that priest-ridden place. You have heard me ill spoken of, and yet, believe me, I have hosts of friends there.
Anna. Yes, you reign in their hearts.
The devil. Shaking his head, you flatter me, Sonora, but you are mistaken. It is true that the world cannot get on without me, but it never gives me credit for that. In its heart it mistrusts and hates me. Its sympathies are all with misery, with poverty, with starvation of the body and of the heart. I call on it to sympathize with joy, with love, with happiness, with beauty.
Don Juan. Nauseated, excuse me, I am going. You know I cannot stand this.
The devil.
Angrily, yes, I know that you are no friend of mine. The statue. What harm is he doing you, Juan?
It seems to me that he was talking excellent sense when you interrupted him.
The devil.
Warmly shaking the statue's hand, thank you, my friend, thank you.
You have always understood me, he has always disparaged and avoided me. Don Juan.
I have treated you with perfect courtesy.
The devil.
Courtesy.
What is courtesy?
I care nothing for mere courtesy. Give me warmth of heart, true sincerity, the bond of sympathy with love and joy.
Don Juan. You are making me ill. The devil.
There. Appealing to the statue, you hear, sir.
Oh, by what irony of fate was this cold selfish egotist sent to my kingdom, and you taken to the icy mansions of the sky?
The statue.
I can't complain.
I was a hypocrite, and it served me right to be sent to heaven.
The devil.
Why, sir, do you not join us, and leave a sphere for which your temperament is too sympathetic, your heart too warm, your capacity for enjoyment too generous?